Shalom Israel, giving all praises to Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai Ba'ashim Makakadash, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, double honors to the apostle, elder bishops, the great millstone. My salutation to the brother teaching word for the hopeful elect, soon to be the elect, most high will, to the hopeful extended elect, Shalom, blessings. I asked, there's many reasons that the elites fear the so-called black man or the possible rising of black men taking over or rebelling. It happened during the Maccabean revolt, which the Maccabeans were Jake's during the Greek time of the Greeks, and there's another person named Hannibal, Barca. And I asked, did the Romans fear Hannibal? They said yes. And Hannibal Barca was a Jake. Says yes, the Romans deeply feared Hannibal Barca, whose devastating victories during the Second Punic War shattered Roman confidence and creating a lasting cultural trauma. And, that's why you have a Hellenistic age during the time of the Greeks, because it was it was us rebelling. It says, and he had the kingdom of Macedon, which is, that from the Alexander Greek family, Alexander the Greek, because Philip V, I think, of Macedon was his father. Alexander the Greek's the father. So he had, help, got them to help him come against Rome. He lost in the Third Punic War by Leo Scipio Africanus, but he was conquering not only many Italian cities, but he was killing a lot of so-called white people. He was trying to wipe them out, basically. And what I was gonna say. And they say his name. Now, if I pull up pictures, they got now here he's looking more Jakeish right here. When we say Jake, we talk about so-called black man, because Jake is basically Jacob and the head tribe of all the tribes of Israel is it's Judah, which is one of the sons of Jacob. So a lot of times we use Jacob in the place of Judah or the black man. But there's 11 other tribes other than Judah. Let me see. Let me get a closer picture. Why won't it, yeah. It won't big up. But if you look real close, you can see they got a beard on him. It's another picture that you could tell by definition that he, his color and everything, that he was a man of color. Right here, as you see, he's talking to the so-called, but he has more of a, it's probably not a good picture either. But you see, they kind of darken him a little bit. And they got, his knees looking like that because Hannibal, his name means favor of Baal. But in Baal, we use it in the term of it being negative, like the devil, but Baal just means Lord. So if you want to talk about a play of words, it doesn't always mean you're the devil. Just like Lucifer means light bearer, it doesn't mean that all the time that's actual Satan or Lucifer or evil deity or whatever. Same thing with Malak or Molech, which comes from the word Malak, I think, and it just means king. It just how you represent it, how you worship it, or how you know, perceive it. But here he has a beard. A lot of these busts, if you go back to the bust and they have beards, they're most likely Jake, because that's not a fashion of the so-called white man. I mean, unless they were living in the caves. But they wanted to, when they started being diplomatic or political, they started, or campaignish, they started trying to get away from the image of the caveman. So that's why a lot of these newscasts, all these high seat places, including the president, like Trump, and they don't have beards. And that's a natural thing to grow, on a man's face. Well, here you go, right here. King Hannibal, from Rome's biggest enemy. There you go. And to the greatest military strategic of all time. They got him as a black man right here. That's truth. And like I said, I looked up Genghis Khan. I don't think he's a Jake, but Attila the Hun may have been a Jake. But yeah, Hannibal. What else I want to say about him? And this ain't gonna be a long video. And that's why, I'm gonna do another video about the Holy Spirit. That's why I got this popped up. But Asia, that's why it talks about. Let me get this right quick. Our people scattered all across the world. Asia is mentioned 21 times in Scripture. And I'm not saying he was from Asia, but I'm just saying how people were scattered to where, we had people everywhere. And then, especially during the Byzantine Empire, I mean, when we basically ruled Europe 1,000 years, we wanted to spread out and conquer and take over like any nation would. So, we had our people everywhere. And that's another subject, but you go into the Moors, you could see those pictures. They had so-called white women in their palaces, while the so-called white men was living in the caves. And they probably had, some of them as servants, I'm pretty sure, in the inner cities. Jake always lived in the inner cities, what have you. See, right here it says Acts 9:19 and 10, and this continued by the space of 2 years, so that all they that dwelt in Asia heard the word of the Lord, Yahweh Shai, both Jews and Greeks that dwelt in Asia. So you had a lot of, so Hannibal was a Carthaginian from Carthage. And he conquered many Italian cities, man. What else was about him? All right. And the Carthaginians, they went to war against Rome. And I'll look up Carthage right quick. Carthage means new city in the ancient Phoenician language. It refers to a famous ancient city-state and city-state means, sovereignty. It means independent state. An empire in North Africa. See, there go North Africa. Founded by Phoenician traders in the 19th century BCE. Let me see. Grew into the richest, most powerful sea empire in the Western Mediterranean. and controlled vital shipping lanes and commerce across North Africa, Spain, and the islands of the sea. You know, so we were everywhere, and that's a part of that also. Uh, it goes into later the Spanish Inquisition, man. That's why these Edomites be watching Jake like that, and be making confederacy with other nations and to keep us down, because they know when we let loose and it's all game. They know we can get barbaric. You know, Hannibal, famous Carthaginian general who led war elephants across the Alps to attack Italy. Italy, you know, destroyed by the Roman Republic in 146 BCE, later rebuilt as a Roman city, finally destroyed in the 7th century CE. And there were, so far as I know, three Punic Wars. Like I said, he was defeated in the third Punic War by Leo Scipio Africanus, which Africa was renamed. I mean, you know, before Africa was Africa, he named it. It was named after Leo Scipio Africanus. Colonization, you know, with the Edomites. So, and you know, before that, it was probably called, I don't know, Mizraim or Egypt, or just, you know, but yeah, because that's all back then. I mean, Ham, I think, had 4 children, but you know, back then when we were dealing with these Africans, it was mainly Egypt, you know, with Joseph, Moses. And you know, during the time of King David and Solomon with Jeroboam, you know, we would go down, that we would use as a safe haven sometime. We'd be in prominent places in Egypt. But you know, even during the time of Greek Empire, of course, I mean, there was a Hellenistic age to where, like I said, the Maccabean revolt. So we was influenced, you know, a lot of was sparked and influenced, I would say, as speaking as a man, from that rebellion. Or it was time, you know, because even with Antiochus Epiphanes, that's when the wicked root came out of that Seleucus Empire, you know, to where, you know, they were doing very highly heinous things, more than Alexander the Greek, you know. And Alexander the Greek was more, I think, like the apostles say, more of a tax guy, you know, and but you know, Antiochus was different. Sometimes they call him Antiochus, or that's what Google calls him, Antiochus. But you know, we say Antiochus. But you know, Hannibal, and you know, he had an army. What it also says, an ancient city-state of the African coast near modern Tunis, founded by Phoenicians, destroyed and rebuilt by Rome, raised by Arabs in 697. That's another code word for us sometime, Phoenician, which is, I think, is another word for Palestine, which means immigrant. But you know, you can go back to the Phoenician language, and it looks similar to Hebrew, if not exactly. Let me see, Phoenician language. See, exactly the same, basically. And they got hieroglyphs. But yeah, and you know, you could learn more about Hannibal. He was a so-called black man, and you know, written in history, he would be considered as a barbarian, maybe. I mean, because you know how they paint the picture of barbarian, you know, without law, without rules, just like basically barbaric to where he's going in and slaughter who he wants and taking out who he sees. So, but he was doing that to the so-called white people, man. And you know, even Jake, because you had Coon and sellout Jakes back then. Uh, and I think he was using that as a strategy when he worked with the Kingdom of Macedon to come against the Romans. He used that as a strategy. I mean, a strategy. Um, yeah. Um, Let me ask something right quick. And I just want to see what Google says. Was Hannibal same time as because these were Jake's too. I just want to see what Google says. And I know that. Okay. So he was defeated, you know. And like we said, during Alexander captured Egypt and Greece, and he wanted to combine. They wanted a new world order back then. So you know that's why you had Alexandrians and all that. So but you also, like I said, during the time of the Greeks, the Maccabean revolt, and even Rome was split, and we basically took over Rome and ruled Europe for 1,000 years. You know, and um, so they're very when you talk about elite status, you talk about what they know. They know things are possible to this measure. So that's why they're more strategic when it comes to what we're doing and who's doing what, who's eating what. Because if you see a change of people's culture and diet and all that, and education, whatever it may be, then you see a shift and you know, to where it may become a threat to you. You know, because um, when you set up, when you know what the bottom is, when you know what how it looks when a country declines or when a nation or people declines, opposed to the other way, then you'd be like, well, damn, we need to make a move because these people are thinking different now, you know. But a lot of times, it was barbaric how we just approach things like the hell with this. You know how Jake get, and I'm not talking about barbaric like like you just stupid. Sometimes they paint that picture like the barbarians are just stupid and they just all they believe is just war and they didn't have no knowledge, no strategy of things, how to go to war, whatever, how to go about things. They just ramshacked and all that, and that wasn't the case. So let me, and I won't go too long. Yeah, I've already. But anyway, I mean, this is more informational. Of course, we know the scriptures got scattered. See, right here it says, verse 22, so he sent into Macedonia two of men that ministered unto him, Timotheus, Erastus, but he himself stayed in Asia for a reason. So they go Macedonia. Look up the word Macedonia. It was an empire that was founded by Alexander the Greek, basically. And I'll read a little bit about it and close out. Term Macedonia most commonly refers to a historic and geographic region in southeastern Europe, an ancient kingdom ruled by figures like Alexander the Greek, the modern country of North Macedonia, northern province of Greece. You know. So, in really the deep scheme of things, the Macedonians he was talking about were probably Jakes that he wanted to help them. In history, they don't really paint the pictures like it really was. You know, they'll paint Hannibal as a so-called white man. They'll paint every Macedonian as a Edomite, so-called white man. And best believe it, we are called Alexandrians and Antiochians. Best believe we is called Macedonians, you know, on certain levels. That's like today we call Americans. America is named after Amerigo Vespucci. So we're called Americans today, and like we were called back then, Grecians. We were called Greek Macedonians. We were called Alexandrians. We were called Antiochians. Whoever the ruler was in place, we were called by their name, because they named the lands after their name. They named the lands after their names. Yeah, that's it. That's in the scriptures. So if you know, if Hannibal would have made it to that level of rule, to where if he wasn't defeated by Leo Scipio Africanus, it would have been the land of Hannibal, or the Hannibalites, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And but you know, he was taken down, and you know, they had a strong hand, the Greeks into the Romans, but the Romans were split, Western Rome and Eastern Rome. So it's always that Eastern Western thing. Just like over here, it's the Western world, and over there is the Eastern world, and the Western world is gonna collapse. But you know, just the key thing, they are always worried about so-called Negroes rebelling, because it's a history of that. Anyway, hope it's there to find Shalom.